Welcome back to another episode. On this episode, for the ABCs of Career Development, we are focusing on L. And L is for layoffs. And if you have been following me for any amount of time, you know that I have had a intense focus on layoffs in my dissertation study. I wrote a book called Managing Layoffs, 24 Tips to Downsize with Dignity, and continued to follow the trend and came full circle when in 2023 I was laid off from my role after 27 years with the same company. And so I want to talk today when we're thinking about layoffs is a year later. And this is very timely because as I'm recording this, it is October 2nd, 2024. And the date that I got my notice of my layoff was October 1st of 2023. So yesterday was the 1 year layoff anniversary, if that's what we call it. And I went out to dinner with my husband and my mom, and in a way, I would say we celebrated. I'm not going to say in a way. We did celebrate where I am a year later. I was in a completely different place a year ago last night. I remember staying up later than I normally do by the fire pit on my back, out back, and just in shock. Completely in shock. It did not really feel like that was coming or warranted, and I was trying to figure out, what does this mean and what does this look like? And if I fast forward to where I am today, I truly believe that everything does happen for a reason. I've said this before, and I know that there are, especially when we're in the midst of something, there's no sense to be made. But later on, when we look back, sometimes we start to see those puzzle pieces coming together as to why it was a blessing. And I can say it took me a long time to even think about that for this scenario, for this instance, and for this experience. And I can't believe it's been a year. It feels like it's gone by really fast, but also when I was chatting with some of my former team members, sometimes it feels like it's 10 years, one of them mentioned. And it can feel like that. I was grateful enough to have the opportunity to have lunch with a friend yesterday morning, and she was asking me how is life now that you're not in corporate, because I did not go back to a corporate role. And for me, it's been amazing. I'm not going to say I would never go back to a corporate role because I don't know what that future looks like. I have an idea of what I'd like the future to look like, but it's been amazing, and it's been something that I did not imagine it could be. And it feels like things just fell into place in such an amazing way. And I'm so grateful, and I don't take anything for granted in where I am today because of what happened a year ago. And I also see that things that have happened in my life, even before that day a year ago, set me up to prepare me for what was going to happen. And hopefully that doesn't sound strange or weird, and hopefully it makes sense in some way to you. And this may sound very strange. So in 2020, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I went through a double mastectomy with reconstruction. Later on that year, I had a surgery, preventative, full hysterectomy with ovaries, tubes, all of that. So 2020, in addition to the pandemic rocking everybody's world, I had cancer rocking my world. And that was something that really hit out of the blue, never in a million years expected, and really changed my perspective on life and what I'm meant to be here to do. And I don't know that if I didn't go through, I don't know if I didn't have that experience to go through, I would have felt as solid and in an okay enough state when I got the news about the layoff. So if you have not been laid off in the past, it really rocks your fucking world. There is a tremendous hit to your ego. You feel like you've not contributed the value that maybe you've seen, that you felt, or that you were working towards, and that you're not good enough. And it deflates you. And I can tell you in my experience, it took me a minimum of 30, 45 days to kind of work through some of those initial stages of grief. And you do go through the stages of grief with a layoff. And mourning what was gone so quickly, in the snap of a finger, it was gone, which is amazing. So mourning that and working through that and continuing to mourn it and work through it, even when I picked myself back up, that 30, 45 days later and started to take action and do things. And so it really rocks your world. It hits your ego. It changes, and especially for those who have been, and I don't want to even say especially for those. I was at the company for just over 27 years. So I did not realize my dependency on my calendar, for instance, like how I lived by that work calendar. I did put some of my personal stuff, or things I had, like, on there because that was kind of the main thing for me, and it set your agenda for the day, for the week, all of those kinds of things. And getting into that pattern every day, waking up, signing in, having meetings, traveling, even that. There's so much that we just get. I feel like it's almost a complacency in not feeling like that we can move either or make any kind of significant move. I myself, even 2 to 3 years prior to that layoff notice, had considered, and not many people know this, but I had considered, how can I exit? What's my corporate exit strategy so that I can focus on my business? And so I was starting to work on some of those things to build my business. Confidence and mindset is a huge part of that, and I feel like very much in the early stages. And it just really rocks you. And some people, and I don't even know if it's some people, I would say almost everybody who's been laid off, at least that I've talked to, they never forget it. It's almost like that trauma. I would say it is a trauma, and you can have that post-traumatic remembering things that you went through. Like, for me, even talking about it a year later, I remember so many details, and I'm sure over time those are going to start to fade more and more, but it's still so clear in my mind what happened in the days leading up to that, putting the ahas of why certain things happened, the actual day, what happened. It was a little bit of a blur in the days afterwards. I remember taking a picture of myself behind the grocery cart at Walmart in the middle of, I want to say it was a Tuesday or Wednesday, because I didn't even know what to do. I didn't know what to do, which in a way is kind of sad that we are so attached to our work life that I had to go to the grocery store a couple times a week just to get out of the house and do something, because I wasn't sure what that was supposed to look like. How do I move on? What does any of that? So even trying to talk about it and explain that to you is challenging. So layoffs can definitely rock your world. I have, after getting laid off, after I think it was December 2nd, is when I actually launched the Let's Talk About Layoffs platform. So you can go to letstalkaboutlayoffs.com and get some free guides. I have guides for individuals who have been laid off, WTF, or what the fuck just happened. I have one for people who are in an organization that has laid off individuals and they are still there, which are typically called survivors. And I think it's called Still on the Island. Another one for leaders. I use that term very loosely for some people who have to make the decision to lay off. It's called Ditch the Axe. And there's, I think it's 12 strategies to do instead of layoffs, because there are so many things that companies can put into place before their last ditch is that they have to resort to is layoffs. And then I also have, what is that? For managers who have to lay people off and they didn't, that's, I think I called it other duties as assigned, maybe, because it's one of those things that you may have to do as a manager, and usually it's not like clearly stated, written out, and you don't expect that you're going to have to do that at all or on a regular basis kind of thing. So I have these separate guides on that site for individuals who are impacted, and I also have a layoff preppers guide. So for individuals that are working in organizations, no matter what kind of organization, you never know when a layoff could happen. And so this prepper's guide is specific to, here are some things that you need to think about and that you need to consider putting into place before you hop on the call and you get that news that you're being laid off. You never know. So that's almost like an insurance for you to make sure that you are taken care of in as much way as possible. And a lot of those things I learned from going through being laid off, and I would have never thought about before. Some of them I already had started to put into place, thinking about, but some support there. And I think for now, that's all I'm going to share about layoffs. I'm still digesting just it being a year later, what that looks like. There's the pain still there. There's still some anger there, and I think that's going to continue to take time to work through, and I feel like that's normal. But it's not debilitating for me either. If you are in the situation where you've been laid off and you are several months out and you are still having those feelings heavily, I encourage you to seek help. I encourage you to talk to a friend, to talk to a relative if that feels comfortable, to seek out a therapist, to seek out, go to the hospital if those are things that are really debilitating to you and you are struggling to move on, because you're worth so much more and you are enough. And sometimes we struggle to realize that on our own, and it's okay to get the support to be able to lift ourselves back up, to take that helping hand so that we can move on to the next best thing. And there can be a silver lining after a layoff. I would say I'm living proof. I've actually had the opportunity to transition to academia full time. I always wanted, when I was little, to be a high school English teacher, and ended up going the business route, got so far in corporate that financially it did not make sense to switch over to education. So I've been able to supplement that for almost the last 10 years as an adjunct faculty member, first in business management, and then in industrial organizational psychology. And that has helped set me up for where I am today and moving into academia as a full-time assistant professor of business and being a career coach on the side and helping clients and amazing individuals to find what's next or to figure out in their own career how do they develop themselves, challenge themselves, learn and grow, and again be that lifelong learner and have the opportunity that they seek and they strive for. And so even last night at dinner to celebrate, my mom said it's amazing how all of these things that you've done in your life have really come together to where you are today. And oh my gosh, how true is that? I had to sit back and digest that. It was powerful. So if you have been laid off or you know somebody who's been laid off, I do encourage you to go to letstalkaboutlayoffs.com, and I encourage you to seek support and talk to somebody in this group. Feel free, or in the career development club on Facebook or on LinkedIn. Join the group there. Post something out there. There are other people that are willing and open to supporting you, and you just have to let them. That's a big lesson I learned not only through my cancer journey, but through my being laid off as well. You have to let people help you because they want to. And we are almost born in a way that so many of us desire to help others, and putting others first. So let others help you. Take that helping hand and open yourself up because the possibilities are endless. And with that, I will leave you and I will catch you on the next episode.